This framework provides us some context to that journey. And it's called the Stages Framework. What I'm going to get you to do is just listen to me. Because some of you will learn by planning, some of you will learn by reading, some of you will learn by speaking, some of you will learn by doing. But first round, I just want you to listen and engage with me. You can draw the framework later. Okay? But if you just sit with me as we go through it, is that okay with everyone? So, it's called the Stages Framework. And what the Stages Framework does is it tracks the journey that people go on through the stages of development. It talks about 5 key stages. The first is the startup stage, whether that's choosing to go to law school or choosing to get into the car stereo business or choosing to become a hairdresser or going out on your first date. We all go through some kind of startup phase. And then we go through a series of changes. And then we go into a growth phase. And that growth starts out first as incremental growth and then starts to go exponential. And then we get to this other stage that we get really stuck at. And in that stuck space, we make some choices. And the choices we make in that stuck space will either lead to going into plateau, which ultimately leads into decline, or alternatively, making a choice to go into advanced growth. What most people don't recognise is that what drives where you're at in the journey and the decisions you make and the communication you're having and your behaviour and your level of planning is feelings. It's feelings that are actually driving decision making, communication, behaviour, your level of planning. So let's go back to day one. You'll notice that there's no time. Time is dependent on your journey. You go through the same stages, but a 600-year-old law firm in the UK that started 600 years ago is on the Stages Framework. Somebody who started a hairdressing business is on the Stages Framework. You think that hairdressing business is 600 years old?
No.
In the dot-com days, when people could raise enormous amounts of capital, they could go through this journey really quickly. But they're still on the journey. Time is actually not relevant. What's relevant is the feelings that you're going through in the journey. That tells you where you are. So, day one. Who in this room started a business? If you all didn't put your hand up, you kind of forgot that you're in a new skin business. So, you heard about new skin. Day one. How are you feeling about business? Excited. Yeah, and what does that excitement do? That drives your decision making, your communication, your behaviour in the business. It drives your planning. How much planning do you do day one? None, right? Who do you go and share the business with? Anyone, right?
Yeah.
How strategic are you? Not very. And that's okay, because you're in the excited phase. What sort of prospects do you look for?
Somebody who's breathing.
Somebody who's breathing. As long as they're breathing, you'll talk to them. In fact, it might even be less than that. If they have a heartbeat, you'll talk to them. Give them some CPR because Vitality is going to save their life, right? So it's that level of excitement. Did you have the same excitement when you got into law school?
Oh,
Yeah. Did you have the same excitement when you met Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have the same excitement when you got into the car stereo business? And that excitement drives your decision making, your behaviour, who you speak to, everything going on in the business. And so you're now really excited and you make a whole bunch of calls, you get at that list, you target your friends and family, and what happens?
Rejected.
Do you have all the answers? First they start asking a bunch of questions. Do you have all the answers?
Yeah.
So how do you think they experience you after you've made the first 20 or 30 calls?
Manic.
Dejected.
Manic, possibly dejected.
Anxious. Frantic.
So before we get to anxious, we'll go through this manic phase. We use the word frantic because you don't have all the answers. You know that this is what you want to do. You're making 100 calls. You're targeting as many people as you can to be hairdressers. You're working out how you can sell car stereos. You're at school trying to work out all this stuff because you've got this many books to read and you've got these exams and there's all these new people you want to hang out with and there's a bar. Well, that's what I did. It's a whole lot of frantic energy. What happens next? What happened next in the car stereo business?
I was in a position where I had to learn really quickly because we were doing a high volume of stuff immediately, and it was in the Christmas rush time. So, my learning curve was very quick.
Yeah. And typically what people say to me at this point is they go, I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if this would work. In New Skin, I hear a lot of people saying, I got so many no's, I was like, I don't know if this business is going to work for me. And some people in their downline have had people not ring them, not tell them, they just left at this point. When you know this framework, what you can actually do is pre-predict that. Pre-predict that feeling that you're going to go through frantic, excited, you're going to go through frantic, you're going to hit anxious, and instead of saying this business isn't going to work for me, your upline's going to ring you and acknowledge you that you're actually moving forward in the journey. I'm so glad you hit anxious, that's awesome. Because I know that the next phase is an investment phase. You're now at the point where actually you're ready to fully commit to the business. So we've gone through excited, we've gone through frantic, we're in anxious, and all of a sudden one day we wake up and there's car stereos coming through the sales, coming through the door. You actually work out how to get all the studying done, or that you can't get all the studying done, you work out, right, there's stuff I don't need to do and there's stuff I do need to do to prepare for exams, to prepare papers. If you're in a relationship, remember, that first date? Remember that first date, Bev?
Oh, yeah. That's enough, Ben.
Do you remember the second day?
Yep.
Do you remember the third day?
Yep.
Do you remember the fourth day?
Yep. I think they were all the same time.
The fourth one's getting a little fuzzy.
Do you remember hitting anxious?
Yeah. Jerry does more than I do.
Anxious is when all of a sudden in a relationship you've moved in together, and all those things that you do, that you have a certain way, and they do, and they have a certain way, those other things are starting to piss you off. You know how some people roll up the toothpaste and some people squeeze it out? I had one person tell me that when they hit anxious, they realised that they couldn't live with someone that rolled up the toothpaste. And guess what they did? They said, that person's not for me, and they left the relationship. Only to realise 2 years later how silly it was. So there are so many places along this journey that you make choices. Jill said this morning, and was vulnerable enough to say this morning, that she starts things and quits them really early. And you might find, Jill, that what you do is actually hit anxious. And your pattern is to hit anxious and go, oh, that's not for me, I'll start another journey. And then go through something, hit anxious and go, no, that's not for me, I'll start another journey. And what I'm going to show you here is that we all have patterns. And if we can work with Jill to break that pattern, then you can get to the first brick wall. And insert the next phase, and the next phase, and the next phase, and the next phase. But if you don't break that pattern, you'll just keep recreating it in lots of things. I did some work with a leader in this business, and he realised that he would get to a point somewhere down the track in multiple aspects of his life, and if he didn't work out how to break through this wall, he would always keep creating that pattern no matter what he did. So this helps us identify those patterns. So we hit anxious. Who's hit anxious in the New Skin business? Guess what? When you're up on stage seeing all those TEU people and team elites tell the story of how good it is, sometimes they're in a journey down here and they forget what it's like back here. So you hear them telling all the good things and they forget that they hit anxious one day. And they forget that they didn't feel like doing it, and they didn't like being rejected, and they didn't like making more calls, and they didn't like feeling like they didn't know what to do. But they did get through it. Because at some point they went, oh my God, I've just been trying too hard. I've been push. This business does work. I need to just slow down. And what I need to do is invest. The investment of making 25 presentations a week for 2 years will get you to making 750 presentations. How good would you be if you made 750 presentations in the business?
People who die in there.
Exactly right. That's an investment brick wall. They're putting the hours in to doing the presentations. Not just doing it the same way and getting the same result, but going, okay, what did I do well? What could I do differently? How can I connect better? Really strategically thinking about it. This first brick wall represents the first big state of energy change. In this startup phase, you're completely reactive. It's short term, not thinking long term. You hit the first brick wall and you're actually starting to think long term, strategically. Right, I've got to make 750 presentations. I can either just make them randomly anywhere and not think about it, or I can learn how to really master it. In fact, the people that stay in the first brick wall longer actually achieve a better good times and get to advanced growth. This investment phase in the first brick wall is a critical phase. You don't want to just rush through it. Student.
Can the investment phase transcend? Okay, so can the investment phase last, let's say, 10 years, even though you've been in Nu Skin for like a year? Because maybe you're gradually becoming the person who you need to become? Or is the investment phase different for each venue?
Really good distinction. What you'll notice is that you personally are on this journey. And at a micro level, your Nu Skin business is on this journey.
Okay, so
Which is what you just said.
So I'm developing as a person through stages, and I'm also developing in Nu Skin as a leader or whatever through stages.
Correct. So there's this series of investments to make. At college, it was a series of investments. In fact, college was a whole investment period. There's 4 years sitting there. Whether it takes 3 years or 5 years is irrelevant. It was an investment period. And during that investment, there was a feeling of sometimes nervousness, but overall confidence that you're going to get through it. Working out the toothpaste is not the most important thing to worry about in a relationship. You confidently invest in the relationship to get to know each other at a deeper and deeper level, and then plan your life together. In the Nu Skin business, you're investing in skilling up. You're investing in relationships. You're investing in using the product, so you've got some stories. You're investing in your team. You're investing in coaching skills. You're investing in coming to TEU. You're investing in understanding the LTO process. You're investing, but why are you investing? Because you want to get a return. And that return comes as you invest, all of a sudden one day you pop out of the first brick wall. And you'll notice that you're on stage, you get an extra pin title. You're on stage, you're being acknowledged. Who's been on stage and acknowledged by a corporate and people at an event? Scotty, how's it feel?
It's great. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Especially, I think, is I remember getting like acknowledged as an executive. I don't go up as an executive, man. I'm gonna be a blue diamond, right? But it's I mean, each and every single acknowledgement to Lapis to Root, it's all.
And when you get to this place, that Scotty calls it great, but he's Canadian. This is called good times. What people say is they remember those things. They remember those milestones. I remember being acknowledged, or I remember that commission check, or I remember that one day the hair salon was just full. People remember milestones. Or one day I remember reading an article about myself in a newspaper. There's some milestones that people recall. For a real estate agent, I remember that first time they sell $1 million house. And the second time is this series of milestones. And then somewhere during that series of milestones, you're actually feeling completely relaxed, completely calm. You've got relaxed intensity. You know the business. You know how to do a presentation. You know how to develop your downline. You've got that relaxed intensity. And then, as Scotty said, you go, you know what? I want the next thing. And the next thing. And the next thing. And all of a sudden, over a short period of time, All the investments that you've been making, this whole journey's been an investment. You hit payback. And for some of you, it'll be that recognition on stage. And for others of you, it'll be a big commission check that allows you to buy something. You might have developed a dream board back here that had a picture of something on it. And at payback, you've actually got it. You've actually achieved why you started the business. Some of you it's cultural, some of you it's commercial. And at point A in payback, you're starting to pay yourself back and enjoy the rewards. How do you think you're feeling at that point?
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, forget the good. Forget the great of it. It's more like awesome. You're wearing your underpants on the outside. You are larger than life. Who's been someone in payback that's 10 foot tall and bulletproof? How do they show up? No, it's not confidence.
Invincible.
Invincible.
Unstoppable.
Unstoppable. They're absolutely on fire. They think they are God's gift to whatever the business is.
The lazy.
They may have a bit of humbleness around other areas in life, but in this context, they are kings or queens or princesses. They own their stuff. We call that feeling euphoria. And what a lot of people do is they hit that euphoria and rush straight through it. They just want more and more and more. Instead of stopping and acknowledging the journey, acknowledging themselves, and actually holding themselves there. Because they don't recognise what's about to happen next. Because what happens next is all of the growth that was coming through here actually starts to go exponential and you can't deal with it. Because back here, you had a platform and a system that had you, let's say you were recruiting 4 executives a year. You could manage that. Now all of a sudden, those 4 executives are recruiting 4 executives, and those 4 executives are recruiting 4 executives. And now you've got all these other people coming into your team. And you've got one strong leg and 3 legs you're trying to work on developing, and all of a sudden that one strong leg just disappears, collapses, and you get churn. And you've got all these other people coming in, but the commission check just dried up. How's that feel?
Nightmare.
Deflating nightmare. We call it frustration. Do you remember when you were frustrated as an attorney? I know that, and I keep saying it. Do you remember when you were frustrated in the immigration business? Do you remember when you were frustrated with Jerry? Do you remember when you were frustrated in the car stereo business?
Oh yeah.
We all go through it. But because we don't have a map to explain it, we think it's just us. Or just, in fact, everybody else around us, and they're the problem.
Now you're on something.
And all of that frustration sits inside you and sits inside you, and then you get some more churn in your business, and that leads to stress. And then all of a sudden, somebody else leaves. The person that you thought was going to stay with you forever. And you hit, literally bang, into the second brick wall. And inside the second brick wall, you say to yourself, why am I doing this? You forget that you actually achieved why you're doing it here. And And you go through frustration, and you go through stress, and you forget all of that. And you say to yourself, why am I doing it? We call that disillusion. And in the space of disillusion, you just want to leave. I'm done with it. I'm going to go do something completely different. Guess what that is? The choice to go back through the same pattern and hit disillusion again. But what we do is actually stop people and say, you know what? Of 100 entrepreneurs that started a business back here, only 5% ever get to advanced growth. So the fact that you got here, it's like you're actually in the best of the best. Now what we need to do is turn the fundamental business model that you've got and reskill it. Because the skills, the humanware that you had when you started day one got you to here. In disillusion, all you need is some new humanware. You just need to upgrade the humanware. And you didn't realise it, because back here, you thought you were 10 foot tall and bulletproof. The people that do realise that then go into research. And they restructure. The Team Elite person I was working with that hit disillusion, he said, I'm out of here. I actually said to him, you need to develop some new skills. And he said, yeah, you're right. What do I need to develop? And I said, I don't know. Let's see if we can work it out together. And at lunch today, he presented me with a framework of 28 pages of the 4 key capabilities that any new skin team elite needs to develop to become advanced growth. Not only has he developed the skills himself, he's worked out how to build 28 pages of material, a framework, a set of tools to be able to share with all of you and anyone else in his business how to become a team elite. I would like everybody to stand up and thank Charlie Patterson for being brave enough to go through the second brick wall. Because what happened for him is in the research, he then got re-energized around the business. He learnt these new skills that were going to take him into advanced growth. And sitting in advanced growth, you have 5 key characteristics. A person or a business has these 5 key characteristics when they're sitting in advanced growth. Firstly, they know what their identity is. Charlie knows he's a rocket launcher. The reason that we all do red shirt exercises with you is so that you can know your identity. To get through the first brick wall, you need to know your identity. To get to payback, you need to know your identity. Somewhere in the second brick wall, you'll transform that identity to play a bigger game to get to advanced growth. The second characteristic is that you have channels, relationships. That the people that you know your identity, and they know how to introduce you, and they know how to introduce you to lots of people. You have a set of relationships that find you pre-sold and pre-qualified prospects. Put it in another language, you all get Charlie on the phone to help build his business. It's called Three Ways. That's a channel. It's an example of a channel. You all find people that could be incredible team elite leaders, and you make sure Charlie connects with them so that he can help develop them with you as part of your business. That's a channel. You have strategic relationships. You're building your downlines. Third characteristic is that you have strategic resources around you. You have the right people, you have the right structure to help build your business so that you can live in your gift. When you work out your identity and you work out you're a rocket launcher, then you need to have a team around you doing all the stuff with people that aren't rockets. Because not everybody you're going to build into your business is a rocket, right? So you need to have a structure around you so that some people are running the calls, and some people are doing engagement, and some people are running training, and some people are building the team structures. We are part of Charlie's advanced growth strategy because he recognised that to train up hundreds of people around the world needed some extra resources. So I put some functional strategic resources around it. Does that make sense? Someone in advanced growth has the right CPA doing their taxes so they're on time a couple of days ago. They have somebody managing their infrastructure so that, you know, when a computer dies, they don't spend 2 weeks trying to fix a computer. They just have someone fix it. They have strategic resources around them so that they can live in their gifts. When you're in advanced growth, you continue to invest. And you continue to invest in new skills. Because in advanced growth, you're saying, wow, that's not the end of the journey. There's another wall I'm going to go through. And if I keep investing in my skills, I'll get to this wall and I'll be able to go through that wall. But if I don't, if I've just done the identity and just got the relationships and just got the resources and I don't invest in myself, guess what happens? You end up in plateau. The fifth characteristic of somebody in advanced growth is that they're really clear on their purpose in life. Their why is not a picture of a boat or a house. They got that at payback. They're now doing it for a deeper why. I don't learn to develop intellectual property so that I can be on stage here as a showman. That would be getting to advanced growth. I learned to develop intellectual property so I could hear stories about you guys going out and changing people's lives. Because my purpose is to create paradigm shifts. And I'm really clear on that. Guess what business I'll do that in?
Whatever business you're in.
Whatever business I'm in. When you're really clear on your identity and your channels and your resources and your skills, and you keep investing in those skills and your purpose, guess what you can go and create somewhere else when you start that one? Mastery in that. Because you've learned the pattern of getting into advanced growth. Who wants to be a team elite in this room? Put your hand up if you'd like to be a team elite. How would Charlie feel if Charlie is sitting in the back of that room and all of you were team elites? What would Charlie feel in his body?
Tingly inside.
Too much information.
We call that feeling proud. And it's not pride, it's humbleness. Because of the humbleness of knowing that you went through the journey yourself. And you went through all the ups and the downs. All of the energy. All of the exhilaration. All of the anxiety. All of the frustration. All of the joys. All of the wins. And then could see other people go through that journey. And support them to get there. That's proud. So my question to you all is, where are you on the status framework today? In the context of New Skip, what are you feeling?
Somewhere in that growth area right now.
Is it more like fractious, good times, or euphoria?
I think more like fractious.
Right, because there's this, just out of the first brick wall, there's this feeling that we call fractious, which is you've invested, and you're waiting for the return to come, but it hasn't quite arrived yet. Just bought a house in the last decade. Remember that feeling just before the first mortgage payment where you realise that, oh my God, you've got to spend a whole lot more than you thought you had? That's fractious. Good news. You're about to start getting some rewards coming through. Some relaxed intensity. Jeff?
I kind of say fractious, but really invested. Continually invest. Because I know it'll come if you invest.
And that's the key. It's actually to realise that there's not just one investment. You continue to invest.
So I don't let that part bother me.
Yeah.
I just go back to the drawing board, keep working, keep pushing. And good things will happen on the other side of that wall.
Now that's the time to create conversation you can create with the framework. Because without the framework, they could have said what? We've been investing forever and we're not getting a return, we're feeling really anxious. Don't know what to do. But having known Hannah and Jeff, that they have gone through the first brick wall and they have gone through that phase and they are about here, you can go, oh my God, that you're actually about to get. And the thing is, most people don't recognise good times. It shows up and the commission check's slowly starting to grow and slowly starting to grow. Guess what they're doing with the commission check as it's slowly starting to grow? Spend it. So you don't actually notice that you've got any more because you've just got more stuff. And then all of a sudden, one day, you can afford that really big thing. Oh my God, I just missed all the good times because we've been spending it all. That's good times. You've been enjoying it. You forgot to acknowledge the journey. Funny where you're on the stages framework.
I'm in the investing. I think I hit the wall. I'm past the wall, so I'm investing. And I'm going towards good times because this is exciting for me to realize where I'm going.
Maybe it's- That's the other application of the tools. You can start to create a conversation with people about where they're going. People talk to me about their vision, and I say, great. What's your vision for good times? What's your vision for payback? What's your vision for advanced growth? Because vision changes, like goals change. If you talk about vision up here, when someone's in the first brick wall or anxious, what's going to happen? Yeah. It'll just be unreal. It won't be grounded in reality. You've got to get to you've got to achieve some goals on the journey. It'll be just too many layers of context away. Gloria, where do you feel like you are in the stages framework?
I'm bouncing continually between day one and investing wall, right off it, depending on the last phone call, the last bill I opened, I go all over the place. I couldn't say that I was one of those things that changes even in one day. Like it's an emotional roller coaster all over the place, not straight at all for me.
Really good, another distinction. In this phase, there is high energy and low energy. It feels like a roller coaster. By the time here, it's actually calm, relaxed intensity. But in this phase, it's very up and down. But it sounds to me like it's more in the anxious. There's moments of calmness and then it's anxiousness. So if you put a time frame around it yet, how long are you going to prepare to deal with that?
No, I'm worried Charlie's gonna run out of air saying aim, 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 aim. But no, I haven't put a time frame on it.
Well, if you put a time frame on it, it'll release some of that anxiousness. Because then you'll have a deadline. Does that make sense? Marty, where are you on the stages framework?
I'm literally living day one.
How's day one feel?
Day one's awesome. Day one's awesome. That's good.
And how does it feel to have the whole journey mapped out for you?
Feels good, you know. It's nice to have the journey mapped out. People here in all stages of the journey makes it feel good too. Literally day one. I'm in the blue. The red will be tomorrow.
Natalia, where are you?
I'm in the first brick wall. I'm just investing and investing and celebrating some good times, and then back into anxious. I'm looping around that brick wall.
So you do oscillate a little bit through the journey. You don't, in the one context, you don't go backwards. You kind of loop, but you don't go back.
Yeah.
What happens is that where people feel like they're going backwards is they're actually getting stuck. Where do you feel like you are?
I feel like I entered the first wall at the end of last month. I was thinking that I was there a little bit before because I was feeling that relaxed. However, when you just explained to Natalia, I believe I was coming out of the anxious and into the invest. And then I totally hit the wall because I said, I quit my mind I quit core calls with Charlie and all this. I quit New Skin. And that was on Sunday, and then Monday morning I was back calling people. So, and I was there for our core call. And what I realized is, looking back, it was just, oh, I can do this. I'm fine. And now, if someone says no or someone says yes, it's the same feeling, which is great. either way, so I'm just in the beginning part of that, first brick wall.
See how you can start to, like, forget the framework for a moment. That when you're managing your downline, when you can hear these language pieces, you can actually start to hear where they are. And instead of actually being caught up in all their energy, whether it's anxious or excited or frantic or whatever it is, it's like, oh, they're just on the stages framework. Great. Now I know what I need to work with them on. Because what I need to work with someone in anxious is set a time frame. In the first brick wall, that language of I don't care whether they say yes or no, it's all good. That is first brick wall energy. So you can actually start to hear what your downline is saying to you and go, right, okay, that's where they're at. Now I can set some strategy with them. Now I know what conversation to have. Is this useful?
And what's wild is that my life holistically, it should scream anxious. However, I'm not, with all the other stuff that's going on. And it's not. So it's really powerful.
Now, anxious doesn't necessarily need to be, oh my God, I don't know where the next dollar's coming from, I don't know if this is going to work, blah, blah, blah. Once you've been through this model, whether you know it or not, you hit this phase and go, I know what I need to do here. Now, with the framework, you can really know that, yeah, I've been here before. You have a question, Thomas?
Well, I just want to talk about that for a minute because it's, as all the other frameworks are, this one's awesome as well because it really puts a box around how everything in my life's transpired. And, you know, I've seen in all my other careers that I've been in where I've gone through this whole cycle and I've got up to that last wall there. Well, not the last wall, I got up to that big wall there and realized that at the end of the day, it wasn't worth what I was putting into it, so I changed looking for, you know, a better vehicle to make the end goal happen. And it's really good because, I mean, where I'm at now, I've been through the first brick wall and I've gotten up to the second wall and it's all falling apart and I've had to start over again, you know, so I mean, a couple times. And I can explain to other people who are in another business or another industry I can find out where they're at, and then I can show them what's going to happen. And if that's the road they want to go down, this is what it's going to look like. And it may take a year, it may take 20 years of your life, but ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what you're going to have to go through. And are you willing to do that?
Because the context of today is enrollment. So, where's the best place to enroll people? When they're in startup? No. Because in startup, they've got their head down, so focused on what they're doing that they can't even hear what you're saying. In invest, same thing. In good times. Is that a good time? Absolutely great time. Because they've got time to think about it. They've got time for a cup of coffee. Now, they don't necessarily have the pain point to want to make a massive change, but this might be a good time to introduce the casual distributor conversation. They've got time to start incrementally adding things to their life, to their business, to whatever they're doing. In payback, they're in payback in a part of their business life. So a good time to throw Niskin at them.
It's a great time.
They're 10 foot tall and bulletproof in what they're doing. Remember, they're wearing their underpants on the outside. They're not going to hear it. They think they're God in their own world. Frustration. They're in too much pain. Second brick wall. Perfect time. They're looking for a change. But guess what happens when you recruit someone who's deeply in the second brick wall into your business?
Start all over.
They have to go through a whole bunch of second brick wall energy. Because you need to know that someone that joins your business in the second brick wall has this whole bunch of baggage behind them. And they're going to bring all that baggage with them. And they're not going to know whether it's your baggage or their baggage or somebody else's baggage. They'll give it to you and ask you to mind it for them. It won't be so polite though. Perfect time to recruit them, but know that they're the people that you need to help get through this. They're the ones that need identity skills. They're the ones that you really need to talk about skilling up. You need to show them this framework so that you can help them help themselves get through it. In advanced growth, good time to recruit someone? Good time to enroll someone? It is the number one. There's always good times to enroll. But right up here in advanced growth, people are strategically looking to the next thing. They've got time to strategically plan their life. Do you remember I said at Payback you achieved what you wanted to achieve when you started the business? And in the second brick wall you forgot you'd achieved that? Well, in advanced growth you have that, and you have the new reason. Because in the second brick wall you actually realised that now I want cultural success and commercial success. I want the money and the team I love working with. I want the money and the acknowledgement. Whatever it happens to be, you've got both. So if someone's achieved that in their life somewhere else, guess what? They've got assets that they'll be able to leverage really quickly in a new skin business. Perfect time to enroll. Steve?
It would be possible to maybe get growth as far as money, and then advanced growth as far as like recognition, or flip it.
No.
Is that
So
like
let's say people either join the business consciously or subconsciously for money or recognition.
Okay.
Does everyone get those two things? So you join for one reason, at Payback you've achieved that. In advanced growth you've actually got both of them. It's an and conversation. In the second brick wall, what actually happened was you forgot why you joined it and you had that and now you want the other thing. Got this great big commission check but nobody seems to love me. Or I've got this great team that love me and I'm not making any money. I'm travelling around the world, people put me on stage but I'm not making any money. In advanced growth, you've actually got both.
Thank you.
You're in the business of planting seeds, right? If you have the stages framework from an enrolment perspective, you can plant seeds here. You can plant seeds here. You can plant seeds here that might sprout here. You've all heard the stories of, I had my first New Skin conversation with someone 3 years ago and they're joining today. All that means is that person's gone through the stages framework and now they're ready. They've hit the right place in the stages framework. So you don't have to show the stages framework to anyone. You can just know it in your awareness, thinking about where they are in their life. And you can show it. Because it might be a tool that you can use as a strategic recruitment tool. To say, hey, we've got this great tool that maps out the journey that everybody goes through in their life. Can I have a conversation with you about where you might be? To help you move forward. Does that make sense? Over the course of the next month, I'm going to ask you to share it at least 25 times. Why?
Integration.
So you integrate it. So this becomes your tool.
people are in different areas of their life, they're in different places.
I'll tell you.
Career, relationships, health.
Awesome.
Okay, so say the second brick wall is the best time to enroll, and in their health and career, they're there, but in their relationships, they're somewhere else.
Oh, you want me to teach you the 6-step communication process so you know how to have a conversation with them and ask them questions so that they tell you what was going on. Is that what you're looking for?
Great question, Natalia. Great question.
Oh, good. You happy to stay around this afternoon? I'm happy to do that. You.
You must have had some of your Mojo Cliff Bar thing up there. Swagger.
Alana, where do you feel like you are on the stages framework?
Where do I feel like I am? Well, I definitely have felt, I felt a little anxious, and I would say stress and frustration. Like I feel confident with the way things are moving, but then at the same time I feel all those things too.
Yeah. So what did Alana just tell us?
Who's Frank Schaffner is?
Alana just told us she's all over the map. So what I need to do is ask her, I need to do what, Natalia?
Yeah, have meaningful conversations. etc.
Well, I just need to ask her a question.
Great job, Natalia.
So tell me more about the anxiousness.
The anxiousness is, for me, I feel like any tool that I get, I will use and I will share with my team. And if I have a question, I'll ask it. But if there's something that isn't right, and I don't know that I need to even ask or even look for it, then I won't ask it. So I'll just keep going, full speed. So I could end up in something that could have been, can be prevented here. I'll end up being way over here. So unless, am I making any sense at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel like unless,
You'll just grab something, take a hold of it, use it, and then one day you'll find out that, oh, that wasn't meant for drinking, that was meant for putting the radiator on. Is that right?
well, yeah, I mean, any tools, I'll go.
Yeah.
So if there's something that needs to be changed along the way, unless someone else sees it in me, I'm just gonna
You
go.
put on a catcher's mitt and play first base. And end up tell me about your team.
About my team?
Yeah.
My team, I feel like I have a couple of people that are doing everything I tell them to the T. So if there's something that I don't know about, 100% I won't tell them because I know they'll do it. So I'm careful with what I'm sharing. And then I have a lot of people I feel like the baby stages. I'm waiting for some more leaders to emerge, which I think will take some of the pressure off because I feel like I'm kind of the everything right now. That.
Fabulous. Welcome to post-first brick wall fractures. You've been investing. You've planted all these seeds as potential team leaders, and now you're actually feeling all those feelings of feels all over the place because the return yet hasn't come from all those investments. And it's about to. But you're actually in fractures just out of the first brick wall. Which is why it was hard to work out what it was, because you said all those feelings. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Can everyone hear that conversation? So my point is that sometimes people have got feelings all over the place, just need to drill down a bit more deeper and listen to your experience. In my experience, what I just heard is been in business, she's got a team, it's not like day one, so we're past that. What I actually did is, in my mind, I broke up the framework in slices. I didn't hear you achieve payback yet. So it's pre-payback. I heard all the investments, capital team, and then the key one was, I've got all these leaders and I'm just waiting for which one's going to emerge. Like I've invested. Good times hasn't come yet. It's just on the outside of the first brick wall, waiting for that team leader to emerge. So a good way to find out where people are is just listen to their conversation and in your mind, cut the framework in half. Is it pre-payback? Is it pre-payback or post-payback? If it's post-payback, is it pre-second brick wall or post-second brick wall? If it's pre-payback, is it pre-first brick wall or post-first brick wall? So you just keep breaking it in half. Does that help, Tony? Great. I'm Stu.
Hi, I'm Jenny Marie.
Jenny Marie, how are you?
Sunshine.
You know what? We have spoken on the phone.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I didn't have to see your name tag up there.
Oh, so that's probably can't leave it from me.
I can't. Where do you feel like you are on the stages framework?
Well, I'm not sure I'm interpreting all this correctly, but I think that I moved through like a lot of all these different emotions. I was excited, I've been frantic, anxious. I feel like I've invested a lot of time, worked really, really hard. That doesn't mean it brings results, but I put a lot of time into learning everything I can, and I was really uncomfortable with the frameworks, and the first time I came to class I felt like it was a lot of information, and how was I ever going to know all these things and then be all these things and then do all these things. But I'm starting to relax into things, and actually this month I became a Ruby, which was not until like 10:02 that night was I sure that was really happening because of the questions.
You're going cruising?
Pardon?
Are you going cruising? Or Bermuda?
Yeah, I'm going.
Bermuda.
Yep.
All right.
God willing. But so what I wanted to say is, so I got there, but I have an unusual menagerie of people, and I'm one of them. And so they're all so different, and they have so many different needs, and I have this one falling down, and that one going up, and this one having a hysteria, and that one, you know. So what I've learned through this experience, and thank you, Jen, the other day for our call, is that I'm moving into a place of knowing and trusting myself better and coming more clear on my identity, which Charlie would know all about. And regarding the relationships, I feel like my team is very much there for me, and I'm just skilling up, and my purpose is getting better, because my why, I really doubted my why. The reason I doubted my why was because I didn't think it was important enough. And now I have realized it's my why and it is important. And so that's all working together. So I'm in this place, I think, now where I moved into stress. No? No? Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm not sure.
Where is she?
Anxious.
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 I'd say she's good times relaxed.
Here's some of that.
I don't know.
I would say it's just the first report.
So far we've got two correct. Where do you think she is?
I think she's an anxious moving in the first brick wall. She is.
You said fractious.
Yeah, anxious. Or, I'll say fractious.
Anxious. Anxious.
Anxious.
It's fine.
anxious.
Anxious invest.
I already answered, so.
Okay, Ginny Marie, can you come down here, please?
This is my partner.
Welcome to day one of the first brick wall. You are in day one of the first brick wall.
That works for me. I'm investing.
Here's why.
Okay.
For everybody, I need you to hear this. When people say I've invested time, that's not an investment. Every single person that ever started a business invested time. An investment is not time. An investment is when the person says, I've gone through all this stuff and I've realised I need to stop and I can do this. The key word she said is, I can do this. So all of those feelings have actually subsided. And Jennifer, and I didn't know this, Jennifer and Jenny Marie had a conversation, and what I heard Jenny Marie say is, she's hitting her knowing. She's gone out of thinking, out of feeling, and all of a sudden, that confidence that comes from, it's in your gut, it starts to show up. That's when the investment starts.
Cool. I like it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's very scary. Can you imagine?
So don't get confused by that, it's scary, and you've got to let go of the noise and listen to what's the key context. Investing time, everybody. Think of a business. Think of a relationship.
That's a good place to be.
Think of a degree. Think of anything. You invested time. That's not an investment. That's just you can't get past day one without that.
A few of the best practices we've seen over the years is that we know people are in the first brick wall in Nu Skin is when they have a solid client base. So you're really hard to be in the first brick wall in Nu Skin if you, and Charlie and Casey push back if you disagree, when you don't have a solid client base. You're making your $2,000 to $3,000 in volume and not panicking over it. You know you're in the first brick wall in Nu Skin when you have an ability to calmly represent the business and to lead with your knowing. You know you're in the business when you have one, in the first brick wall, when you have one or two executives at least. Yeah, would you disagree? But like when I hear somebody say you think you're in the first brick wall, you need to ask yourself some really efficient questions. Is, you need to have some clients to be in the first brick wall. You could be in the first brick wall and not have any clients. What else would you say are characteristics? I think this is important of people in the first brick wall.
I'm working with Stephen and actually starting before he came into the business, doing stages with him on his whole life, different things that he'd done. And having him say like, oh, I'm excited, I entered the first brick wall. And I'd ask him more questions and I challenged it because what I heard in language, which is common, is still a decision-making process of like, okay, am I going to finish this? Am I going to continue on with this journey? Can I do this? And my experience with that investment phase is the acceptance, as Stu said that Jean Marie has now, where I can do this. And that there is no longer ever a conversation or even the thought, internally or externally, about ever quitting. Like it's not even on the table. You're Nu Skin for life. This is your home, and it just is. It doesn't matter if it takes you 20 years to get to Blue Diamond or 20 days. I mean, it just is. And that relaxed investment of, I'm here.
Yeah.
That's it.
And has it yet showed up in your commission check?
Actually, I had a good commission check. Matter of
You might
opinion
have,
on
but
that.
you might not have took it. Now, you'll notice that money, pin title, is not on that journey.
Yeah.
Size of your team is not on that journey. It's actually a feelings journey. And we could map pin titles, we can give you some indications of where they're likely to be, but it's actually those feelings. That's the real feeling.
Another thing I really wanted to anchor is Alana, just listening to Alana speak, was a lot of people have a rush to get to good times. But as Charlie has often said, you know, the bigger you want to build your empire, the longer you need to spend time investing in skills, preparing for how you're going to lead this empire. Don't rush through the first brick wall. The bigger the investment, and so Alana, as I hear you talk, you know, I'm not sure you are anxious because I hear you continuing to invest and invest and invest. And I know, because I've talked to you so much, you want to build an empire. You're not looking to build a 2-story building. So for those of you who are looking to build empires, we want to spend time investing. It's one of the most worthy places of our time, of our energy, and of our dollars, because it's there that all transformation really starts.
Yeah. I've heard lots of stories about people who rush through this. They get on stage, they get lots of acknowledgement, they get pin titles.
Go wide.
They go really wide, and all of a sudden they've built their money for show, not die. They've built a pancake organisation, and all of a sudden it collapses. And they get stuck in here. They get stuck. And it doesn't feel like good times, it feels like frustration. They're actually stuck. Casey?
I'm one of those people. Because it took me 9 months to get the diamond. And then within 3 months was, actually 4 months, was back to Ruby. So I would say I didn't actually, I mean, while I was doing, I thought I was investing because I was committed to coming to TEU every month. I was going to all the events. I was doing the business. I wasn't actually really invested until I went from Diamond back to Ruby and got committed that I was going to do whatever it took and be here however long it took to do that. And that was about 1.5 years in.
And you've been doing it for 2 years, 3 years, right?
So what's the difference between like when you're investing and then when you're quote like really investing?
Because it's, the best thing I could describe it as is somebody that goes out and does all the activities of the business and never creates the result because they don't have the alignment and the personal commitment and synergy inside. And so when I knew that I was really investing, it was like, I don't care if I go back to gold. I'm going to just keep going. I'm doing whatever it takes. There's no question. It doesn't matter where I've been before now. All that matters is where I'm going. And not from a, just from a, like it doesn't matter. Just, it doesn't matter what the journey looks like. I'm on it.
So externally nothing changed. It was all internal.
It's no longer about your ego.
That's
See,
a
what
good
happens
point.
here in the starting phase is a lot of ego involved, and the anxious phase actually knocks the ego over. So that when you fully commit, I'm no longer doing it about my ego, I'm doing it because this is what I want to do. By the way, the ego shows back up here.
You know, I really connect with what Casey was saying, because something to remember is scale here. A lot of the people in this room have not been in the business very long, and so you kind of rush to feelings and where you're at. It took me 2 years, not to say that it doesn't take you less time, but it took me 2 years to be at that first brick wall. And we sat there with Charlie actually when he basically dubbed me, like he knighted me at his house, right? This was a couple months ago. It took me 2 years to get there, and I'm in like major investment mode right now. So just remembering that the journey is, none of these things are like, you don't have to rush through it, you know, it's not like you feeling or thinking you're feeling something is progress. It's okay if it takes you a bit to get to that first investment, like Casey was saying, that it took her about 1.5 years, you know, after she had gotten to a pin title. I shot to Ruby really quickly. And what my feeling now is, and I do a call with Stephen every night. He knows my definite purpose statement and how big my goals are. It's a feeling of, I don't care where I'm at or if I fall, if I do this or do that, I'm there and I'm committed to doing this no matter what. And so that's kind of the feeling you get when you're in that phase. Like you just, okay, this is huge, and if I fall forward, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna keep on going, and it is what it is. If I fall backwards, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna keep on going. It's just that kind of just intensity of, it's gonna happen because I say so. And so it's just something to keep in mind as well while you're kind of looking at this, not to rush through it. Because because I wanted to too. When I was here doing it last year, I was darn sure I was in the first brick wall. I wasn't even close. A year later, I was in the first brick wall.